again, as retired teachers, want to thank you for your years of service. My wife is actually a 30-year teacher, a retired teacher now. She reminds me of that. I'm daily reminded when I see her laying in bed when I head off to work, and I always ask her. I said, "What do you ever miss?" And that's about as far as I get, And she says no. Said I'm enjoying doing. I mean, she loved teaching. My wife was a kindergarten teacher for about 10 years. Moved to first grade for 10 years, and then probably the love of what she did, she was a reading recovery teacher for the last 10. And as we talk about literacy today, literacy for myself is something that goes back into my childhood. I was raised as a military fan, as a child, even though Tifton is home now. Irwin County was where I worked for 22 years. Fitzgerald's where I graduated. That was home of my grandparents and my parents. But as we traveled, whether it was from Hawaii to Virginia, everywhere in between, I had a mother who always made sure that I had books to read. If you go up to my office today, you will see my collection of Dr. Seuss books, that I had when I was a child. And I attribute my mother's passion to make sure that anytime we had a book order or anything that was going on, that she made sure that I was ordering. I mean, I loved books. In fact, this morning I left the governor's mansion with the First Lady, and we were, talking about the importance of literacy and reading, and all the members who were with us today, presented, our favorite books to the First Lady. And I can't say enough about her passion for literacy and reading and really laying a groundwork. But for my mother, as I said, I didn't care where I was, I always had books. And that helped me to maintain, my academic success no matter where I was at. But as a high school social studies teacher, one of the things I did notice, and I clearly saw the importance of reading, is that if my kids struggled, it was because they could not read. It wasn't because they didn't know content. It wasn't because content I could teach, but I was not trained in reading. And that was one of the things that really, bothered me or concerned me as a high school teacher. Because I knew if we didn't catch it early, then we couldn't play catch up later on. That was just real hard to do. And so since becoming state school superintendent, I've made reading to make sure that has been at the forefront. I think reading, for me personally, is the most important skill that we can transfer to our young people. Because reading opens up the world to them. It opens up opportunity to whatever class and course they want to go into. They can have the option and the opportunity to be successful. Once they leave us, then I don't care what form of higher education they want to go into, it gives them the groundwork to be successful. And I say that as an individual who has attended technical school, who has been to an engineering university and eventually had the ability and affordability to graduate with an undergraduate and graduate degree within our state. But that's what a good foundation of reading will open up for our young people. It will allow them to become great moms and dads. And that's where I think we have to continuously to refine that to our parents. And we were talking about today, even at our cabinet meeting with the First Lady, it's so important for our parents not to begin reading when they enter school, but they need to begin reading when they give birth to that child. Yeah. My wife, as a reading specialist, and this was something she reinforced to me each and every day. She always said, Richard, if we could get parents just to read or have their children read 5 minutes a day, it would make the biggest difference in the world. And we know the importance as children come into our schools that, their working vocabulary needs to be high. It may not necessarily mean that they just don't know, but they just don't have the background knowledge to make those connections. And so that's why it's important. Today we continue to look at things within our state and continue to expand those opportunities for reading. We're talking to our pediatricians, we're talking to our healthcare individuals, our dentists, people that see our children before they come to us, and as they're meeting those needs that they traditionally deal with, we're asking them to talk to the parents. ask them, are you reading to your child? Are you exposing your children to books? But I believe there's nothing like a good book, to be honest. I like to hold that in my hand. And I still see the joy of that with children. One of the things that we emphasize and do each year is that each year for the past 3 years, we've received about 100,000 books each year. And we give those books out. We don't charge, we don't say anything. So we want books in the hands of our children. And so we work with a group known as Better World Books. They have given us 300,000 books so far. And we've been able to give those out to children. Many of them who do not have a book in their house except the phone book. And that's a sad thing to say that's the only book you have in your house. And what I've seen of phone books, unless you have really good eyes, you can't even read the phone books, okay? They've gotten thinner and the print's gotten smaller. But I think there's a lot more interesting things we can read than the phone book. And so, today we come down to celebrate with you, to celebrate Dr. Williams, your staff, Dublin City, a commitment to ensure that our children are reading. And I think that as some of the news has been shared with me within Dublin City, that you can see the importance. Your graduation rate, over 90%, and that beats the state average. Today we have the highest graduation rate that we've had in our state. So we're looking at what we're focusing, and we're focusing with intent. But I say that because I know that our importance and emphasis on reading will continue to pay dividends in that. I think it's very likely within the next 5 to 6 years we will have a 90% graduation rate across the state. That is my expectation. So that's good. We're going to be working on that. Within the next 2 years, I anticipate we will be at the national average, or if not, exceed that. So good things are happening in Georgia. But it's because we begin to put the focus not on a test, which I think was the worst thing we did as a state, the worst thing we did as a nation. We're not about a test, but we're about our young people. Okay. And that's where I think we've seen that transition. That, as I ran for office, was one of the leading reasons to do that. Because my kids had names. They did not have numbers. They didn't, test is something we did, but it is not what we did. And we had to get back to the point of looking at the child. And that meant taking them where they're at. If they couldn't read, we got to get them where they can read. It means working with individuals. And today, again, I look outside, you have a bus that will be going to the community. And I've always felt that for us as educators, we have to be missionary-minded. Okay. We have to be individuals willing to go out into the community and take reading and take the education, the joy of education to those people. Because we know if they see that we're going out there, they know that we care. And for us in education, I would say, this is kind of a quote that I've picked up from John Maxwell. It said, people don't really care how much you know until they first know how much you care. And by going out into the community, you're showing how much you care, that you value the education of your children within this community. But the way you've done it has really been a way that I think epitomizes what we should be doing in the state of Georgia. Education is not just a school district's issue. Education is not just a Department of Education issue. This is a Georgia issue. Because if we are truly educating our children, providing them a great resource to be able to read, that's going to benefit all of Georgia. That means for our young people who are becoming parents, they will be successful parents. That hopefully that we don't have to go back and encourage them to read, but they will do that naturally. It means that what you are doing as well is that you are getting business and industry. They are not being seen as just individuals who pay for booster clubs and promote things, but they're here alongside you to give expertise and wisdom. And when I look at your sponsorship, they're investing in our young people. And we have to see education as an investment for these young people, for their future and our future. Because what I do know as an individual is I've seen things across the state. If we do not invest, then that probably means somewhere down the line we're going to subsidize. And if we subsidize, typically that means we're going to be subsidizing somebody for life. But I would rather invest in pre-K through 12th grade, and I would say birth through 12th grade, because I know with that investment what that will mean. That will mean that we will have successful parents. We will have successful and thriving communities. We will continue to attract business like we've never done before. Again, one of the things we look at is that within Georgia, we hear about, we're the #1 state to do business. But I could, really like to think that this has been worked at hand in hand, because when you look at education in the state of Georgia and where we are now, if you look, I know that I can speak for the past 3.5 years, I've seen more innovation, more creativity, more purpose, more growth in the field of education than I ever have as a student, as a teacher, as an educator, and as a state school superintendent. And I commend for all of our folks working in the field. I can actually say this has become a Georgia initiative. That is something we are involving all of Georgia at this time. And because we are coming together as a state, and I would say more importantly, because we are coming together as a family of Georgians, that we are doing what's right for our children. We are seeing investment. We are seeing great change, and we're seeing great improvement across the state. And I'll kind of close with some of the good things that are going on. As we shared today, our graduation rate is at an all-time high. Within the past 3.5 years, we've seen a 10% growth in our graduation rate. It will continue to get better. If you take just one AP class in the state of Georgia, that's a 98% graduation rate for that group. If you are a military child, which that is a very tough group of young people to be on, 97% graduation rate in the state of Georgia. If you are part of our career tech program and a pathway completer, that is a 96% graduation rate within the state. What we have seen in that growth in that area is because we no longer have put kids in a box to say that every child is going to a 4-year college. That is not the real world, folks. When my air conditioner went out this Christmas, I did not call my college professor. Okay? I did not call my high school teacher, but I did call Mr. HVAC, and I know how much I paid Mr. HVAC. All education should be seen as equal value, because we need to have a diverse workforce in the state of Georgia. And we're seeing that across the state. Our career tech program is probably ranked #1 or #2 within the nation. That's how strong it is. And I salute our teachers in our area, in which they have transformed that area from being grandpa's old shop class to this is the real world class of today. STEM and STEAM education, our science, technology, engineering, and math. We have seen growth in that. Today we have over 1,000 schools waiting to become either STEM or STEAM certified. Those are the jobs of the future. But it is education as it should be, because it involves our community and involves the entire school. It is a very collaborative workforce. Fine arts, something prior to coming to office, we did not have a fine arts person at the Department of Education. In fact, we had not had a fine arts person in over 20 years at the Department of Education. Some of our standards predated me as a teacher, okay? So that probably meant that Moses saw them years ago. But we now have an investment and an important role of showing that there is more to life than just math and science or math and English. We have to expand those areas in the fine arts. Because right now you look within Georgia, the fine arts industry, entertainment industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. In fact, talking with the gentleman that flew our helicopter today, his daughter's going into computer design and visual arts. I mean, that is a growing and an exciting field. But I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just want to share a little bit about public education in Georgia. Thank you for your investment. Thank you again, Dr. Williams, for your investment here. For the bus that will extend and really open up the world to some young person that did not perhaps have a chance. To parents as well. This is, again, we're looking at a family investment that is now showing them how I can support and how I can make sure that my children succeed. Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you. Again, I thank you for your service as teacher to teacher, for what you have done and laid the groundwork for what we are accomplishing today in Georgia. So I thank you for that. Thank you for your investment in time, because I think some of you actually spend time or will be spending some time on the bus. So thank you for that. And if I or the Department of Education can ever be of service to us and to you, please let us know. But it's been a pleasure to be with you today, and it's a great honor to represent you as your state school superintendent of Georgia. Thank you very much.